What's up, people? Alright, set my timer. I guess I can do like exactly an hour. I have an appointment, and I'm going to donate plasma, so we'll set it to an hour and 2 minutes. Okay. So let's get something done. So yesterday we removed the 10-second delay timer and the 3-second data application delay as well. For the client, we need to remove it for the server, so that's where we're going to pick up today. So let's go to 611 in client. First, let's check our extensions, and we do need to restart this one. Alright, now let's go over here and create our devlog for the day. 14:24, we're starting at 10:18. 10:18 to so forth. Alright, and we are going to remove the 3-second delay timer from server pi. And we put a question mark 3 times because we don't know, did we actually do that? That's what we're doing. Alright, so now we need to remove in server pi, so let's do, hop over here, and that's where we stopped yesterday. We removed this. Oops. Oh, insert is I don't know what it is. Alright, to do need to modify logic in server to remove the 3-second timer there, as was done here. Alright, so let's do that. Bought a new headset off of Temu, and they fucking sent me wireless headphones instead, Bluetooth headphones. So, you know, I mean, and then it made me think. I was like, well, could technically do that, right? Like if I got a Bluetooth receiver for my computer, I could just like Bluetooth hook up to the computer, and then I could just use like Bluetooth headphones. I just never thought about that. I mean, I don't know how good the mic is though. Mic's, I don't think, very great, and they don't really cancel the sound as much, you know? Like, I don't know. Like they kind of do. They might cancel the sound better than these over-the-ear headphones. It just made me think. I was like, man, could I just use regular headphones as a mic? Just never thought about it like that. Anyway, let's open up server, but I gotta return them anyhow. Temu's done that to me once before. I bought, well, no, I'm sorry, it was AliExpress actually. It's not true. AliExpress, I bought like a Game Boy thing for my son, and they sent me like a really cheap whack version. I don't know if they did that on purpose to try to save money, and like maybe you just won't return it, you know, whatever. Alright, so we're in server, and we're gonna find this same delay section, and it turns out that it was actually really short, so this should hopefully in the server should be just as short and easy as the client files section was. Okay, so here's our section. We have it right here. Okay, so the length of the receive cow tuples, and we're not even gonna copy. Like, I'm confident enough in my ability to do this without having to like store it in old features. I'm just gonna whatever. I'll put it. I'll do it anyway. I really don't need to, but I actually like the highlight better. I think the highlight makes more sense for this. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so now that we have stored it in the old feature storage, we can actually remove it. So we'll get rid of the earliest time. We'll get rid of this one. Okay. Now we can change the indentation of this, move it up one step. So we create our apply list, we iterate through the receive cow tuples, we check the time, but we don't need to do that anymore. So that's gone. Oops, let me unindent that. Else break, we don't need that anymore. And there we go. It was that easy. So let's look at it and make sure that it's correct. Alright, so start of the application section, we check the ID, assign receive cow tuples. If the length of it is greater than 0, we create the apply list. Then we have to fix this comment. Yeah, so iterates to the receive cow tuples appending the tube to the apply list. If the apply counter matches the expect counter. True. Alright, so yeah, we iterate through the receive cow tuples, we get the sender ID, then we determine assignment of apply counter and expect counter for subsequent comparison against one another. Alright, no we don't. Determines assignment of apply counter. Expect counter. don't even need that. That's extra. Alright, so we have client ID is equal to 1. We use tube4 against C1 expect counter. If it matches, we apply append to the apply list. Then we increment the expect counter. Alright. Then we do the same thing with client 2, but with tube5 against the C2 expect counter, append to the apply list, and then the C2 expect counter increments. Then we iterate through the apply list, and we get the dir string var, the tube center. We don't need any, like, this is just a different section. Like, this is has nothing to do with the timer and all that. I was just scanning through this, making sure everything was lined up and looks good, and I think it does. So I'm pretty certain we can now go ahead and test this to make sure that it works correctly. So let's get our terminals to move into the proper directory. We're gonna run the server. Now we're gonna run the client 1, and we are online. Now we're gonna run the client 2. There it goes. So there's no delay, it's instantaneous. There's M, and as you can see, the displays are just instant. Bam! It's so much better like this. See how much faster this is? This is so fast. Holy shit, dude. Yeah, so this is quick, and it's as quick as we want it to be, because the enter continue text active is gonna make it to where, see, like right now, it's waiting on me to hit enter. And we're gonna fix that visual card bug eventually. The one that's like see-through, it's like a ghost card. We're just making sure everything works. We're just gonna make one quick playthrough. Something on my monitor right here. Some piece of gum. Something gross. Alright. So he's gonna draw a new card for his red 3. He got a 9. Alright, now see how just quick, bam! Look how nice this is. Easy. This is so much better of an experience. Yeah, it's like going from Windows 98 to Windows 95 to Windows 11. It's just, wow, it's a massive improvement. It's gonna make testing the game just so much faster. Right, yeah, so everything gets placed back. Great, so it works. We didn't break anything. Looks like it works exactly as it did, which is not perfect, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like truly, you know, on a critical level. So we finished that task. It's 10:30, and we'll just remove these question marks because we did, and tested via game test, and every works great. Alright, next task. Things to do. So this is done. Beautiful. Now, what's going to be next? Okay, so we have other client DC client-side logic, menu screen, login system, caution comment review, fix bugs, proper cleanup, other play cards invisible, and re-enable sound. I think so. We organize this. We're just gonna go in order now. Um, you know, actually, I did want to fix this game object arc because it was just one of those things that bothers me. It's just in my amateur coding stage, I made some dumb decisions and I passed in entire objects to functions when I could just pass in an ID instead. Um, and namely the game object. We use the game object, but we don't actually have to. We could just use the ID in most cases. Some cases it's not true. Some cases we do actually have to pass the object, but I think 9 times out of 10 we don't have to do that. Okay, so here we go. This is one of the functions, data transfer function. Let's see, do we need the game object or can we pass the ID? So in this one, this is change attribute list. So change attribute list gets imported into game. If I'm correct. Yeah, but we don't actually use it. Well, we use the data transfer function. And we import the change attribute list. I'm just thinking, could we just not import? Well, we definitely use the data transfer function. And I think that in and of itself already would constitute as a circular import. Even though we're only importing a portion from this module, we couldn't also import game into change attribute list because we're importing data transfer function from change attribute list into game. So we can't do both of those. And apparently we don't actually use this in this file, so we'll just get rid of these. Alright. So yeah, we can't do that. We can't import game into change attribute list. But do we still need this? Game object, or can we use an ID? Let's see. Okay, so the game object handles the timestamp updating. If game object arg is equal to none, we aren't handling a time to adder. Game object is not equal to none. Okay, so then we use that to set the attribute. Of the timestamp. So if we use the ID, like, we would still have to reference the actual object here. And since we can't import it, we would have to have it some other way. The only other solution to this issue would be we could actually move this like section of code somewhere else where it's already imported. So that we wouldn't have to pass it in as a function at all. I mean, as an argument at all to the function. But honestly, I got off work and I didn't like wipe my face, and I noticed my face was kind of like grimy. It's gross. I think we'll just leave this one. Trying to think, where could we instead of passing in the, like running this here, where else could we run this? Like, we wouldn't be able to run the setter. Handles time-tube timestamp updating. So why exactly do we do this here? Let's think about this. Whenever we change a game attribute, if skeleton had our name, then we update the timestamp attribute for that associated attribute from the game object. Why do we do that here? Couldn't we do that elsewhere? Like, we could do that. Let's see. I was gonna say we could handle this in the setters. What's the time tube? So this really. Okay, so if they're in the time tube, we set the timestamp. So I see why we put it here. So instead of putting the timestamp update into all of these places, code for that, we were just like, we'll just add it in this one place. So we just call this function, and instead of having to code it in here, etc., we just do it once here. So we can't really substitute this with the ID. The only thing that we would be able to do is we would have to go in and hard code all these places where these are changed and stuff, or in their setters if they're properties, to update that timestamp there. Which is not a huge deal, but like, honestly, I'm not that worried about it. It's not technically best practice. It's not the highest performance, you know. Like, we could improve the performance, but we would be adding, you know, a good bit of code to gain that performance. So I'm just gonna leave this as it is. I'm not gonna change that. We'll move on to the next one. That's not actually what we're looking for anyway. We're looking for a place where we can substitute the game object for just the ID. So we can't for data transfer function. What's the next one? Other kind bool is equal to true, game object equals other game object equals current game, and then why do we? Why do we try to transmit deck changes, for instance, and the game kills an enemy during that time. Leave time when shares and continue related bugs. Game object game state is not in none waiting other players. Okay, yeah, so that was like, yeah, that's for sure we can get rid of. But so we only needed this because of checking the game state. So like, since we don't check the game state, this is necessary because the object R has to do a check is the master deck, therefore we have to separately assign the game object here. But where do we use the... We don't use the game object. The only place that we used it is now gone. Yeah, so we can get rid of this. We don't even need this at all. So we don't actually need the game object arg anymore? Really? Hold up. That can't be right. These times are checked only on the receive side during dir check at line 301 via if get adder game object. Now the client imports game, does it not? Yeah, so we don't actually have to pass, and then server, which uses dir check, also imports game, does it not? It does. So we don't have to I don't think we need the game object arg at all. Is that what it's called? Let's see. Line 301. And it was called what now? If get adder, let's look for greater than receive times output. See if we can find this line. Okay, there we go. So we just call it object. That's why we might actually need it. But all we would need, we wouldn't actually need the get adder of the object arg. We could just use the client ID, because this is for receiving game data from the time tube, and all these are game attributes. So if we to the rest of them. There we go. Much better. Okay. And DTM complete. We actually don't need this. This is old. We don't. DTM was a long time ago. Boom. Cool. All right. Yeah. So we're using the object, which is the game object, to get the time adder, but we don't have to do that. We can just use the client ID, because if we're receiving and we are client 1, then the only game object we're going to be updating is going to be P1 game. So we can just use a one-to-one correspondence logic. So all we have to do is determine what the current client ID is. If the current client ID is 1, then we would use game P1 game, and vice versa. If it was client 2, we would use the P2 game to get that. Yeah, I think that would work. And if that's the only reason that we're passing this arg, to the dir check function, see, we have object equals none. So let's see. Alright, let's highlight, go to dir check. We're going to minimize it. We're going to do a little trick here. We're going to highlight it and then highlight the next line. Now we're going to re-expand it, and then we're going to do Control F, and we're going to, what is it, Alt L? Yeah, then we're going to do Alt L to find object in the selection. So we needed the game arg here for just run through this. So this is going to be get adder of the object's short card group name. The music was horrendous. Card group, get adder, object, short card group name. So sometimes object is player. And sometimes it is the game object. So sometimes it's a player object, sometimes it's a game object. Now we can make this is, in this case, would this be the clickable card list is associated with okay, so the game, that is a game attribute. Okay. Oops. I'm messing up here. Let's do this again. highlight that, expand it, then do Alt L or Control F and then Alt L. Right, there we go. So this one we can get rid of right here. After implementation of data transfer, card adder. Now card data is only transferred if this adder is set to true, making this section redundant. The data would never be transferred during these game states. Remember to re-indent below lines for associated section if this line is re-enabled. Okay. So we get rid of this. Alright, so right here, the object is going to be current or other player, so we don't have to worry about that. This whole little section. Okay, but now we're at the next one, which is elif adder name string is clickable card list. Stupid scroll wheel, man. Come on, bro. There we go. Alright, so this is where we're at now. Fucking scroll wheel on this mouse is broken. Adder name strings. Okay, so this is the game object. Okay, and now this is gonna be clicked card. Is clicked card player or game? I'm pretty sure that's game as well. Okay, yeah, self-clicked card, there we go. Oh, alright, so it's it's a property, okay. Yeah, so it is a game property. So this is object equals game object. And did I put that correctly for the other one? Let's see. I just put game object. Okay, there we go. Object equals game object. But this one I didn't. So that's line 230. Control Z to put a bookmark there. And then 236. Okay, so let's do 236. And this needs to say object equals. Got a little sloppy there. So I already see what we can do to fix this. To not have to pass the game object, because the game object is huge. Like, to pass that as a argument surely takes a lot of time because it's just insane. Now as far as the object draw card, draw card is for player, right? Yeah, draw card is player. Cool. It's frustrating me that I keep having to do this again and again. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but it does add up. Whoops, went a little too far. Yeah, clicked card, and what was the next one? Draw card, there it is. So this one is also going to be object equals game object. Nope, wrong. See, almost fucked up right there. That would have caused a bug. I'm dumb. Almost fucked up. I caught it though. Okay, so object here is going to be game object. So we can paste that in. These are all game objects for time 2. What's this one? Set adder of the object. Okay. If has adder instance object is instance adder. Ooh. Okay. What is this for? This is for if applied data is equal to true. This is for else. So this is for the rest of the adder name string instances. So these are all the other attributes. Okay. So this part's the only one that's going to be problematic for me. It's like this, I don't know what all. Oh, so wait, does this tell me everything else? This is for if other client bool is equal to false. If adder name string is in client to, and then else. If adder name string is not in time to. Okay. And the only one, it says if you want to read the not in time tube adders this clause handles, it's only name for player. And then we have elif other client bool is equal to true if applied data is equal to true. So if other client bool So, like a way to solve this, because God, this part is like I don't know what attributes this handles. I don't want to just trust it. See, like right here, we do set adder object adder name string. If adder name string, and we use cur game here. Like, where does cur game come from? So we pass in current game too. So we need to get rid of cur game. So it's kind of all messed up. It's not terrible, but it is messed up here. So we have cur game. So let's add this in things to do real quick. Object R. Say dir check refactor. Remove cur game r param completely. Remove instances of object param being used for game objects. Instead, assign game based on client's game ID. Yeah, very simple fix. It's really simple, the concept, but this right here is what messes us up. Is this section if has adder, because this is for all the other attributes. Now, technically, if we just modify this section right here to where if we modified every place where dir check is called and object param is set to some game object, if we made that not a thing, if we removed it to where it would never be set to the game object, and then we would instead like we would change this line right here to instead of just calling object straight up, we would have an if check before. We would say if, like we could say if is instance object is equal to game, then we know we're dealing with a game attribute. So then instead of passing in object, we would pass in the associated game object to the set adder. You see, instead of just calling object, because we're going to make it to where object is basically always going to refer to the player object, and that's just going to be better all around. And we're never going to pass in the game object because we don't need to. That's redundant. We already have it imported. There's no reason to pass it in as an argument as well. Especially, it looks like sometimes we're passing it twice. We're passing it as object, and then we're passing it as current game, when we don't even actually need to pass in an ID, like we can literally just use the global scope from which dirt check is being called, because we know that when dirt check gets called, it's going to be called from the perspective of the current game slash client, meaning if it's client 1, we can automatically know we're going to be we're going to be modifying P1 game. Or but that's not actually always true, is it? Because we do change the other client data. Well, no, 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 no. That man, I'm having to do like a refresher on this in my mind. So there's a lot going on here. This is like a big dirt check. This is all over the whole project. So I I don't want to rush and just make a quick dumb decision and cause bugs. Because I was gonna say we have the other client bool, and that is for whenever we send from server side client 1 to client 1 and to client 2. So then client 1 is sending to client 2, client 2 is receiving on the receiving end from client 1. In that case, it would consider it to be coming from the other client, right? Isn't that what other client bool is for? I'm pretty sure. See, other client bool. We don't have this. Oh, we actually don't have a description of it in the comment, unfortunately. Checks if other client bool is equal to true and checks. I thought other client bool meant it was coming from the other. The client bool arg if to sender ID. So if the ID from whence the data came is equal to the current client ID, then it's set to false. But if we're receiving from client 1 and we're client 2, then we're applying in terms of other client bool arg being set to true. Okay, that makes sense. Alright, so I understand that correctly. I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish this. I only have 7 minutes left. I was really hoping to be able to finish it, but oh well. So we have the isInstance object. We could use this assigns to isInstance object, We don't actually need to assign that right there though, do we? Couldn't we assign the is instance? Let's look for is instance object real quick. So is instance object shows up in the else, and then we only really need it down there. So we don't need to assign it until we're all the way down here. So why would we assign it way up there? You know what I mean? So what I'll do first, something just simple and easy I can do real quick that I'm quite certain is fine to do, is we're gonna grab this right here. This is just not optimized, and we're gonna move this down to right here. So we don't need the is instance object up there. So that's 3 steps in. This is 4. So now we're moving it right here, but this is not right. We need to indent this one. Why does it do that? Alright, there we go. Alright, let's test real quick and see if this works. Make sure we didn't break anything. And just let's look real quick for is instance object. Let's see. So that's the, yeah, this is the only place it's used. Boom, cool. So we're safe. We should be safe on this. Let's just test it real quick. There's no delay now, so this is really fast. He got a jack, he got a 7, jack wins. Okay, now he's gonna deal in his cards. We got 3 minutes, guys. 3 minutes to go. Stack, he gets an ace. It's his turn to play. Play cards and click them all. There we go. Alright, he can't meld because of X, Y, and Z. There we go. Alright, it worked. And see how fast that was? That only took 2 minutes. Alright, so we moved that and that was safe. Now we have to figure out the object thing. And really our problem is right here. Yeah, so basically we can just add in a simple fix for this. We'll say if is instance object is equal to game, then, because that's going to be more common, I think, based on what we saw. The only actual other one is the player. Which is for the name attribute, which is only going to change one time, literally, in the entire game. So if isn't subject is equal to game, in this case, we would want it to be equal to game object, and we just like we're leaving it like this on purpose. And then this one is going to be set adder of just object, because it's going to be that player object. And we can always even tailor this even further. And then when we get down here, well, actually, we can just check the dir string. That's gonna be cheaper. It's gonna be like a cheaper check. So we'll just check if dir string is equal to game, else, which means dir string is not equal to game. Whoops. We'll use the object, and then we'll do the same thing here, and that's our timer, so we actually have to go. Dir string is equal to game, else. So we could actually, like, up here say object equals and then right here we could just do object equals game object. You know what I mean? And then for the rest of this section, we would just use game object slash player object or whatever. See what I'm saying? And then down here we would do the same thing. Yeah. Alright, so we'll come back. I know this got ugly, but I'm figuring it out here. I'm figuring out what we're gonna do. It's gonna be nice and clean and smarter and simpler and better. But I have to go. I have an appointment, and I'm gonna go donate plasma. Like, I literally have to leave right now. So let's just move this real quick. Hurry up, fill out this devlog like fast. And 11. We begin reworking a dir check to use slash game instead of passing in game p1 game slash p2 game. Yep, I gotta go. So I'll see you guys later after. Probably do some more. And